Yahweh Shemel Shash, Barakatah Yahweh Shah, Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahweh Shah, Yahweh Shemel Shash, Barakatah Yahweh Shah, Barakatah.
That he who blesseth himself in the earth shall bless himself in the God of truth. And he that sweareth in the earth shall swear by the God of truth, because the former troubles are forgotten, and because they are hid from mine eyes. For behold, I create new heavens and a new earth, and the former shall not be remembered, nor come into mind. But be ye glad and rejoice forever in that which I create. For behold, I create Jerusalem a rejoicing, and her people a joy. And I will rejoice in Jerusalem, and joy in my people. And the voice of weeping shall be no more heard in her, nor the voice of crying. There shall be no more thence an infant days, nor an old man that hath not fulfilled his days. But the child shall die 100 years old. But the sinner, being 100 years old, shall be accursed. And they shall build houses and inhabit them, and they shall plant vineyards and eat the fruit of them. They shall not build, and another inhabit. They shall not plant, and another eat. For as the days of a tree are the days of my people, and mine elect shall long enjoy the work of their hands. They shall not labor in vain, nor bring forth for trouble, for they are the seed of the blessed of the Lord, and their offspring with them. And it shall come to pass that before they call, I will answer, and while they are yet speaking, I will hear. The wolf and the lamb shall feed together, and the lion shall eat straw like the bullock, and dust shall be the serpent's meat. They shall not hurt nor destroy in all my holy mountain, saith the Lord.
Barakatah Yahweh Shah, Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahweh Shah.
The Lord promised better things for us, okay? Because the Lord, Yahweh Shemel Shah, has a favorite people. And he's going to give this favorite people a heavenly kingdom. A kingdom that's blueprinted and formatted and patterned after his mind. How he want a kingdom to be.
Yahweh Shemel Shash, Barakatah Yahweh Shah, Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahweh Shah.
All right, Shalom. First and foremost, I would like to give all praise and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shah, Bahashem, Kakadash, and double honors unto the apostles and the elders of GMS who rule well, teach well, being great examples towards younger brothers. And peace and blessings and salutation to the hopeful lake out there pushing his word and truth and in sincerity across the four winds in the name of Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shah, pushing to get up out of here. Shalom to the hopeful lake, the believers, the listeners whom I came back to the obedience of the scriptures through faith in Yahweh Bashim Al Shai. All right, coming back with another lesson. And what I want to get into on this one, the devil at work, going into a childless economy. The devil, Esau, Edom, okay, the current, rulers of the planet Earth for this evil empire, this anti-Messiah, okay, this anti-life, and there's just more and more proof that that's what this kingdom is based on. All right, it's a kingdom that's based in heavy deception, where this devil has the masses fooled that he's all about forwarding people, that he's about forwarding life, that he's this big, humanitarian, and he's just protector of freedom and protector of life, and he loved the women and children everywhere, so forth and so on. When it's all a lie, it's the exact opposite, man. Okay, the biggest terrorist, okay, in the earth, all right, is the Edomite nation, beginning with Amalek, okay, who have all the wealth and influence, okay, in the earth, okay. These people are terrorists to the earth itself, the environment, okay, animals, vegetation, the water, okay, people, family, okay, psychological, he hunts, spirits, he traps people's spirits, and you know, and vanity and self-destruction, and the devil just all over the place in his wickedness, man. You know, and this devil, has a created society that's anti-life, literally, man. We're not just saying there's a catchphrase. This devil has literally created an anti-life society. His society is not life friendly. Okay, the society that this man has created, the environment, the systems that govern the earth, okay, the condition of the earth, his financial system is anti-life. Okay, and it's getting worse and worse, and it's getting to the point, all right, that the Lord has to intervene, or no flesh will make it. Literally, man, that's a literal statement. Okay, it's not a dark saying when Yahweh Shah said no flesh will make it, except the times be cutting short. That's a literal statement with this nigga, man. Okay, so when you go into Proverbs, I want to start off here. Proverbs 14:28 says, "In the multitude of people, all right, it says, in the multitude of people is the king's honor, but in the want of people is the destruction of a prince." Now, when you read this in the NLT, okay, it says, "A growing population is a king's glory. A prince without subjects has nothing." So when you look at, a society where you're looking at a reflection of the rulership, okay, so a growing population, okay, a population is able to grow and sustain itself, that reflects good on the king, on the rulership. Okay, that means that everything is flourishing, the people, the earth, okay, abundance, is available. Okay, there's wealth in your distribution, and we talk about wealth is not the wealth of this world, some goddamn dollar, man. Okay, a paper currency. We're talking about true wealth, which is resources, man. Okay, because when you go into wealth in the Bible, all right, biblical wealth is resources, man. Okay, not no damn FRN notes. Okay, so a growing population is a king's glory. A prince without subjects has nothing. Okay, so if you're a prince and your population is dwindling, soon you're going to have nothing. Okay, and this devil, he glorifies in that. This devil has a term called post-human society. As he's talking about AI gonna do this and AI gonna do that, he has a term called post-human society, man. The complete devil, man. Okay, this man is the complete devil that the Bible speaks of, man. Here it is, he's a human himself, but he has a term called post-human society. Okay, that's completely wicked, man. The Lord made people, all right, he made the earth for people's sake, beginning with Israelites. Okay, the earth is made for the enjoyment of the people, beginning with Israel to be the rulers. Okay, of the people. Okay, that's the correct order of the planet Earth. And see, this is what Yahweh Shai is finna come and correct. Now, these heathens have, captivity, okay, and the punishment, okay, for being in alliance with this devil in this rebellion. Okay, so these heathens, they have a punishment, man. It's 1,000 years of rigorous captivity. Okay, and when you go into, all right, a functioning rulership, man, a functioning rulership, was able to sustain its people. Okay. Now, when you go into, all right, and the functioning rulership, wouldn't it need government assistance? Okay, and we got an example of a functioning rulership under King Solomon. Okay, when King Solomon was in his right mind, when he was in his prime, all right, the nation of Israel fared well. Okay, when you go to the book of First Kings chapter 4 in verse 20, it says Judah and Israel were many as the sand which is by the sea in multitude, so growing population, eating and drinking and making merry. And if you're eating and drinking and making merry, that means what? You got plenty. That you're eating from a position of surplus. Okay, because if you're making merry while you're eating and drinking, that means that you're enjoying, all right, resources from a position of surplus. Okay, so King Solomon, he ruled over a growing population of surplus. All right, it tells you, all right, the abundance of resources. Let's see, was it? Let me see. I believe that's yep. No, this is it's Second Chronicles 1:15, and it says, "And the king made silver, all right, and gold at Jerusalem as plenty as the stones." Okay, let's show you the abundance. Okay, it said plenteous. Okay, it says, "So the king made silver and gold at Jerusalem as plenteous as stones, and cedar trees made he as the sycamore trees that are in the vale for abundance." Okay, so King Solomon, he reigned in a time of abundance. Okay, and it was actual resources, man. Wasn't no paper currency then. All right, and Jake was able to sustain themselves off their own substance, man. They didn't need King Solomon, okay, to send a check out every month. Okay, they didn't need government subsidies. Okay, they didn't need all these programs. Okay, and all this aid. Okay, because it was an agrarian society. Okay, and the earth itself shot forth abundance, and it was managed well. Okay, the Lord blessed the land, and it was managed well by righteous rulership. Okay, that's why you go back to First Kings chapter 4 and verse 25. There's plenty more we can get into to show, Solomon's abundance, and wealth and resources, and the nation's resources at that time. Okay, but we're gonna, just hit a few main points. Cause I got a video I want to get into that breaks down the wickedness of this man's system in society, man. Shows you that this man has made the earth to where, new life can't afford to come into the world under this wicked system, man. First Kings 4:25, it says, "In Judah and Israel dwell safely, every man under his vine and under his fig tree." Every man had their own. Okay, they didn't have to have, like I say, government handouts. Every man had their own. Every man had their own estates, their own substance, their own family, their own wives, children, livestock. Okay, agriculture. Everyone was good. Okay, it says in Judah and Israel, which is northern and southern kingdom, every man under his vine and under his fig tree, from Dan even to Beersheba. Okay, and all it says all the days of Solomon. Okay, so this talks about true wealth. With true wealth is resources, man. Okay, the Israelite men had their own resources, man, to sustain their families, man. Also had an inheritance to pass down. Okay, see, we're going back to true wealth, man. You see, this system that the devil is created, is a system of oppression and control. Okay, he has to where he can, because this whole concept of inflation, well, it's based on, all right, this rigged system, man. Okay, you think they were dealing with inflation, all right, quantitative easing, and central banks and all this madness of this wicked kingdom? Okay, so let's go here because this devil, let's get this in we always get it, St. John chapter 10 and verse 10. Let's go here. This is the book of St. John chapter 10 and verse 10. And it said, the thief cometh not but for to steal, to kill, and destroy. Okay? And this is Esau, man. All right, because you look at this man's society, let's just go back. Let's just go back to the 50s. All right, when one job was able to support a whole family plus children, plus have savings, all right, home ownership, okay, vacation, okay. Then it went to now, the woman has to work, okay, to keep up with the inflation of the money, the devaluing of the money, okay. And then it went to now, 2 jobs wasn't getting it. So now they allowed you to have credit. So now you need 2 jobs plus credit. Okay, so now, you have 2 jobs. You have credit. If you got credit, it means you got debt. Okay, so now it takes 2 jobs, okay, plus debt, okay, to maintain yourself and children in this society. Okay, well now, people can't even afford to pay their debt. Okay, now people can't afford to have children in this society. You see, so this man went from, in 70 years, 75 years, he went from one income, the man's income being enough to support family, children, plus savings, okay, plus vacations and whatever, plus ownership, one income, okay. So he went from that in the 50s to now. People can't budget children into the people can't put children into the budget. Okay, children don't even fit into the budget anymore. You see, this man's a complete devil. He's always looking how he can steal, all right, and take, man. He's always looking what he can take away. And see, he doesn't have to, physically, kill neither. Okay, but he has destroyed the concept of family. Okay, the fact that you have to budget a child in, well, that's the same as unaliving. It's the same as if he was just going around unaliving children. The fact that this economy doesn't allow people to have children as they would like because of the economy. So the economy itself is like a serial killer. You see? So this man has just completely destroyed the concept of life in the earth, man. To where everything is complete hell. And it says, I am come that they might have life. And this is beginning with Israel, man. Because we're at the tail of this society, man. Okay, but Yahweh Shai is coming that we may have life, man. Israelites, man, we're going to be restored to rulership. We're going to be immortals. We're going to get new bodies, man. We're going to be abundance in resources, abundance in life, abundance in family. Okay, it says, I am come that they might have life and that they might have it more abundantly, man. Okay, and it's going to tie in to the promises, because we're going to go back to the promises made to our forefathers, man. Even the commandments going back to Genesis, man. This devil creates a society where, the laws of the Most High can't be kept. This is what this devil is pushing more and more. In this new world order system, it's going to be mandatory rebellion against the Most High. That's what he's trying to establish in the earth, man. And this is how we know we're close to this man's end, because no flesh shall make it. Okay, if this man stayed in power. Okay, everything is in self-destruct mode and it's accelerating. So let's go from there. Let's play this. So this the gist of the lesson. I was watching this video. I'm like, damn. Made me look some things things up. So let's play this, man, to show you, okay, this is what this devil has created in the earth. This is the system, the environment, the society that this man has created in the earth, man, through his wickedness, man. Okay, so let's play this. Make sure it's turned up.
Go to a playground in any major city. Tokyo, Seoul, New York, Toronto. At 2 p.m. on a Tuesday, it used to be full, screaming children, exhausted parents, the soundtrack of a functioning civilization. Today, it is quiet. In the 1950s, the average North American family had 3 or 4 children. A child was considered a natural part of the human life cycle. It was the default setting. You grew up, you got married, you had kids. That was the deal. In 2026, a child is something else entirely. A child is a luxury good. Economically speaking, a baby has become the equivalent of buying a Ferrari. It costs about 300,000 Canadian dollars to raise one child to age 18 in Canada. In the United States, the Department of Agriculture estimates $310,000 USD. It requires expensive maintenance. It requires space to park it, housing. It requires fuel, food, clothing, activities. And unlike a Ferrari, you cannot sell it if you lose your job. We are witnessing what economists call the financialization of the family. For the first time in history, the middle class has looked at the spreadsheet of parenthood and realized the numbers do not add up. Canada's fertility rate has collapsed to 1.33 children per woman. That is the lowest in Canadian history. That is 37% below the replacement rate of 2.1. That means every generation will be 37% smaller than the one before it. The United States is at 1.62, also a record low, down from 3.7 in 1960. South Korea is at 0.72. They are on track to halve their population by 2100. China, the country that until recently had a
every population, it goes into a population going down 37% each generation, man. You know, and we know this devil wants to maintain a certain population in the earth, which is complete wickedness and rebellion, man. That's not his call. Okay, to determine how many people should be in the earth, that's not that nigga call, man. That's not the devil call to determine how many people should be in the earth, man. That's him trying to sit in the seat of the Most High, man. You know, goddamn devil, man.
one-child policy is now at 1.0. They are begging people to have children. It is not working. France, which we discussed in another context, just recorded more deaths than births for the first time since World War II. These numbers are not just statistics. They are an extinction event happening in slow motion. We are told this is a lifestyle choice. We are told people just want to travel and have careers. We are told millennials and Gen Z are selfish, that they prefer dogs to babies, avocado toast to diapers. That is a lie. That is a convenient narrative that blames individuals for systemic failure. Survey after survey shows that most young people want 2 children. The gap between desired fertility and actual fertility has never been wider. They want kids, they just cannot afford them. This is not a choice. This is coercion by economics. Today, we're going to perform a forensic autopsy on the birth rate collapse. We're going to examine the housing contraceptive, the daycare mortgage, and the dual income trap. We're going to answer the question that nobody in government wants to ask. How did we build an economy so rich in GDP, but so poor that it cannot afford to reproduce itself? This is the story of the childless economy.
What if I could build an app that works my way with Base 44? My work moves fast. My task.
1. The asset to liability shift. How children became a financial mistake. To understand why the cradles are empty, you have to think like an economist from the 19th century. For most of human history, a child was an asset. If you lived on a farm, and 90% of humanity did until recently, a child was labor. At age 6, they could feed chickens. At age 10, they could harvest crops. At age 14, they were a full working hand. At age 20, they were your retirement plan. They took care of you when you got old. They inherited the land. They continued the operation. The return on investment for a child was positive. You put food in, you got labor and security out. Children were the original pension system. In the modern urban knowledge economy, a child is a liability. They do not generate income. They consume it. They do not provide labor. They require labor, childcare, supervision, education. They do not reduce your expenses. They multiply them. And with the breakdown of the multi-generational household, they are no longer guaranteed to take care of you when you age. The economic logic has flipped completely. We have moved from an agrarian economy where children make you richer to a knowledge economy where children make you poorer. The math is brutal. A child costs $300,000 over 18 years. That is money that could be paying down a mortgage, funding a retirement account, or simply keeping you afloat in an economy where real wages have stagnated for 40 years. In a healthy society, the emotional and biological drive to have children overrides the economic calculation. People have kids because they love them, because they want them, because it gives life meaning, not because children are profitable, but there's a breaking.
And it's in people's spirit to have children. That's programmed in life to produce more life. From people to animals to plants, anything that has life was programmed to produce more life. Okay? And everything living works for the good of one another to keep everything afloat. Okay? The Elohim, the Heavenly Father, through Yahweh Shai and the Elohim, had it figured out in the beginning. This devil is the disruptor of life, man. Okay? Because we're going to go into the agrarian systems, man, because that when the scriptures speak about wealth, it's speaking from an agrarian standpoint, which that's true wealth. Okay, and we're gonna get into these things, but I'm gonna let him break it down. But we're gonna get into these things, agrarian society, okay? Because as we was reading in First Kings, you look at the wealth of King Solomon, King David, our forefathers. There was agrarian wealth through real resources and agriculture. Okay, but when you have this industrial setup, okay, children are a burden. Okay, and everyone's in debt to these few families of the earth. You see, these elite banking families, man. So let's play this some more.
Point. There's a price threshold where the liability becomes so crushing that it overwhelms the biological imperative. Canada has crossed that threshold. The United States is crossing it. Europe crossed it decades ago. We have made children unaffordable, and people are responding rationally. Or as we were too. The housing contraceptive. No bedroom, no baby. The number one form of birth control in Canada and the United States is not a pill. It is a real estate listing. There's a direct mathematical correlation between the cost of housing per square foot and the fertility rate. Economists have mapped it. The line is almost perfectly inverse. As housing costs rise, birth rates fall. The mechanism is simple. To have a child, you need a bedroom. In the 1970s, a 3-bedroom house in a Canadian suburb cost approximately 3 times the median household income. A single income could buy it. A factory worker, a teacher, a salesman, any stable job could afford the family home. Today, in Toronto, the average home costs $1.1 million. The median household income is $98,000. That is a ratio of 11.1. In Vancouver, the ratio exceeds 13:1. A generation ago, it was 3:1. Even in affordable Canadian cities, the ratios have exploded. Calgary went from 3.51 to 5.5:1. Ottawa went from 3:1 to 7:1. Halifax went from 2.51 to 6:1. There's nowhere left to run. In the United States, cities like San Francisco, Los Angeles, and New York have similar ratios. Even affordable cities like Austin and Denver have seen ratios climb from 3:1 to 6.1 or 7.1 in a single decade. Boise, Idaho, a city people move to for affordability, is now at 6:1. The just moves.
And what he's saying is, 3:1, was the going rate. That means that, let's say you made $35,000 a year. Okay, well, $30,000 a year. Well, the house was $90,000, so there was 3 times, your annual salary. And that was like in the 70s. Okay, but now let's say the median income is $50,000. Okay, so now it takes 7 years worth of income. Okay, so now the houses are what? So you times 7, because he's saying 7-1, 6-1. Some places 11-1. So let's say it's 10-1, and you make 50,000. Well, the average house now is 500,000. Okay, in certain areas. Which that makes housing unaffordable, man. And it's done on purpose, man. This devil hates life. This society is literally anti-life, man. Esau hates life. Okay? It's of urgency that this man is removed from power. Completely wicked, man. Okay?
Somewhere cheaper advice no longer works. The affordable places became unaffordable the moment people discovered them. So young people live in shoeboxes, 500 square foot condos, one-bedroom apartments, studios with Murphy beds. You can raise a baby in a one-bedroom apartment. People do it all over the world. Families in Hong Kong, in Tokyo, in Mumbai raise children in spaces that would make a Canadian claustrophobic. But in North America, we have built a culture and a legal system that makes it incredibly difficult. If you have 2 kids in a one-bedroom, you're looked at with pity. Child services might get called. If you rent, you're terrified of eviction. One landlord complaint and your family is on the street. Family-sized housing, 3 bedrooms, a backyard, a good school district, has become a luxury asset class reserved for the top 10% of earners or those who inherited from their parents. So couples wait. They wait until they can afford the second bedroom. They wait until they save the down payment. They wait until the market cools. But because house prices rise faster than savings, the asset trap we covered in previous videos, they wait forever. They wait until they are 33, then 36, then 39. And then biology takes over. Fertility declines, complications rise, the window closes. We have priced the nest out of reach of the birds, and birds do not lay eggs if they do not have a nest. Let me know in the comments. Are you delaying having kids because of housing costs? Or did you give up on the idea and to go? 3, the dual income trap.
Everybody reads texts, which is why your entire team, sales, support, and marketing, should be using.
When 2 salaries became the minimum. In the 1960s, a family could survive, even thrive on a single income. This meant one parent, usually the mother, had the time asset available to raise children. Childcare was not an expense. It was built into the household structure. Today, the economy is structured around the dual income household. To pay the mortgage in 2026, you need 2 salaries. This is not a feminist victory. This is not women's liberation. This is an economic necessity disguised as social progress. Elizabeth Warren, before she was a senator, wrote about this in her book, The 2 Income Trap. Her research showed that when both parents must work just to pay for basics, housing, food, transportation, there is zero slack in the system. In the 1970s, if the primary earner lost their job, the other spouse could enter the workforce as a backup. There was a reserve. In 2026, both parents are already working. There is no reserve. One job loss means bankruptcy. Now add a child to this system. If you have a baby, one parent has to stop working, or you have to pay someone else to watch the child. If one parent stops working, household income drops by 40, 50%. In the modern economy, a 50% income drop means you lose the house. You cannot make the mortgage payment. You cannot pay the rent. So you keep working, both of you. Which brings us to the second option, paying someone else to raise your child. 4, the daycare mortgage, the 2,000 line item nobody warned you about. In Canada, the federal government promised 10-a-day childcare. It was supposed to be the solution. The great equalizer, the policy that would unleash fertility rates like Quebec supposedly did. But remember the basic economics we covered in previous videos? If you fix the price below the market rate, you create shortages. The wait lists for subsidized daycare in Canada are 2, 3, 4 years long. People sign up for daycare spots before they are pregnant. They sign up when they start trying to conceive, and they still do not get a spot in time. If you cannot get a subsidized spot, and most cannot, you pay market rate. In Toronto, full-time infant care costs $2,000 to $2,300 per month per child. In Vancouver, it is $1,800 to $2,200. In Calgary, it is $1,400 to $1,700. These are not typos. This is rent. This is a car payment and a car insurance payment and a car maintenance budget combined. In the United States, there is no federal child care subsidy. The market is unrestrained. The average cost of infant care in the US is $1,230 per month nationally. But in cities where jobs exist, New York, Boston, San Francisco, Washington, D.C., costs exceed $2,500 per month. Let us do the math for a Canadian family with 2 children. Renter mortgage, $3,000 to $4,000 per month. Daycare for 2 kids, $3,500 to $4,500 per month. Total fixed costs, $6,500 to $8,500 per month. After tax, to clear $8,000 per month after tax in Canada, a household needs to earn approximately $150,000 to $170,000 per year. That is before food, before student loans, before car payments, before saving a single penny. The median household income in Canada is $98,000. The math does not work. Childcare has become a second mortgage, and unlike a mortgage, you do not build equity. You just pay and pay and pay until the child turns 5 and enters public school. For many women, the calculation leads to a brutal realization.
And it's all a trap. Okay, they trap you women into the workforce, as if they care so much about women. We went into their recent video, dealing with Shaheed Bosley. He was going into that Okay, but yeah, they tricked you women into the workforce as if they care so much about you women, and they were just concerned about you, and they liberated you from the the, the, the torment of being a housewife. They liberated you from that, for being, a wife to your husband, to being a servant to his system, okay, to being a corporate slave, okay, or a generational dependent, through government assistance, either way. Okay, so they tricked the women into the workforce, which now they create another problem, which was childcare. You see, and when you go in, when this man destroyed the family, and not just the the husband, wife, children dynamic, but when you go into true family, man, when you had, aunties, uncles, grandparents, you know, brothers and sisters, one, big knit family where childcare was in house. Okay, women were learning to be wives, men were learning the skills from their fathers and uncles and grandparents. Man, when he broke that up, okay, and made everything about the individual. Okay, this is where you get this shit show we call a society now, man. That began then when he was able to break up the family, trick people off their family forms into these industries, to these cities. Okay, he was able to infuse consumerism and wickedness, man. Okay, so instead of working your family land and having an inheritance, and men and women having skills of the land, and how to, because that's true wealth. It begins with the wisdom. The wisdom of the land is the beginning of wealth. Okay, how to garden, how to hunt, and men should be able to build houses. Okay, from scratch, man. Okay, as of lately, I've been doing a little carpentry. And I'm just seeing, man, like it wouldn't take a lot to build no house, man. It really ain't a lot to it. We just we grew up so foreign to these concepts, but just doing carpentry work. And there's another brother, he does, in the camp, he does other general contract work. Me and him collabed on a few things, and just seeing how, a house run from the inside out. And it's like, this not hard to do, but this man has you paying $500,000 into something you really can build yourself. And if you had your own land, you had your own wood, how to mill the wood, but we know we in the time for that. That ain't the play. Okay. But just the more you get into nature, and the more you get into doing for self, the more you see how this thing is supposed to be and how much of a scam this society is. Okay. Because at the end, we at the end, the play now, this place being destroyed. Okay. And us being delivered. Okay. But when you tap into, the natural way that things are supposed to be, when you tap into the ways that the Most High intended things to be, you see how much of a scam and how ass backwards this society is. Okay, like daycare, that's a society that's a business that shouldn't exist. Okay, because imagine you have your land and you have all these different families on this one big plot of land. You don't need daycare. You got all these grandmas and aunties and your sisters, and hey, even going back to multiple women, sister wives, they played a major part in everybody winning. You see, okay, but this devil, he has industrialized everything and financialized everything to where now everything is about a dollar. Okay, if you don't have enough dollars, you can't do it. You're restricted. So dollars wasn't a tool to create wealth. The dollar system, dollars is really a restriction, because you trade your labor for dollars. Okay, but if you was putting your labor into your land and working your own resources, you see, you will really see the benefits, and you was teaching the next generation to do the same thing. Okay, but it's like it's another topic for another day. But just to show you how wicked this devil is, man. Okay, and this system is some BS. This consumerism. Okay, you a wage slave, debt slave, consumer slaves, and it's all to a few corporations owned by these few elite Edomite families, man. Okay, completely wicked.
If I work, I earn $4,500 a month after tax. Daycare costs $2,200. Commuting costs $400. Work clothes, lunches, incidentals, another $300. I am working 40 hours a week to net $1,600. That is $10 an hour for the privilege of being exhausted. It feels pointless. $500 a month.
You know, even the second income with the woman. Okay, so
The math does not work. Childcare has become a second mortgage. And unlike a mortgage, you do not build equity. You just pay and pay and pay until the child turns 5 and enters public school. For many women, the calculation leads to a brutal realization. If I work, I earn $4,500 a month after tax. Daycare costs $2,200. Commuting costs $400. Work clothes, lunches, incidentals, another $300. I am working 40 hours a week to net $1,600. That is $10 an hour for the privilege of being exhausted. It feels pointless. But if she quits, she loses her career trajectory. She loses her seniority. She falls behind peers who did not have children. The gap never closes. This is the trap. You're punished if you work. Childcare eats your salary. You're punished if you do not work. You cannot afford housing. So the rational economic actor chooses the third door. Do not have the child. 5. The motherhood penalty.
Switch to TurboTax and file your own taxes free in the app if you didn't file with us last year.
How careers punish parents. We need to talk about the career cost of children because it is not just about daycare expenses, it is about trajectory. In our video on the changing labor market, we talked about how demanding the modern workplace has become. It requires constant connectivity. It rewards hustle. It promotes people who are available at 9 p.m. on a Sunday. Children are the enemy of hustle. Children get sick constantly, relentlessly, for years. They need to be picked up at 3:30 p.m. They do not care about your Zoom call with Tokyo. They do not understand quarterly earnings. They need you when they need you. In a hyper-competitive, winner-take-all labor market, the parent is at a structural disadvantage. Economists have documented what they call the motherhood penalty. Studies show that women's wages drop 4% per child on average. For women in professional careers, the penalty is higher, up to 10% per child. And the gap never fully closes. Men face a smaller penalty, but it exists. Fathers who take paternity leave or who leave early for school pickup are viewed as less committed. The workplace has been optimized for what sociologists call the ideal worker, a person with no external obligations, no family emergencies, no daycare pickups, a person who can work 60 hours a week and be grateful for the opportunity. If you have children, you are not the ideal worker. You are a liability. In 2026, where the only way to beat inflation is to get promoted, where staying in place means falling behind, taking a career break for children is financial suicide, we have built a system that selects against parents. And if the system selects against parents, the system will eventually run out of people. Quick poll. If you could afford it, would you have more kids? Or has the economy convinced you that children are not worth the cost? 6. The dink lifestyle. Dual income. No kids, no future. So what happens to the people who opt out?
They call the dink lifestyle. D-I-N-K. Dual income, no kids. Okay? And this is a very unnatural society, man. You know, just looking at this because the Lord gave us a spirit to be judges, man. And we're judging how this man runs this society. This is very wicked, man. Okay? This is very unnatural, man. Okay? Because a woman is not even supposed to be in these workplaces. Okay? A married woman, okay, should be tending her husband estates. You know, whether it's small or great, she should be at the house tending her husband estates. Okay? Like you say, this is a society that punish you, you know, the workforce punish you for being a parent, you know, for having to leave early, okay, not being available all the time because of children. The woman gets pregnant, you know, it's a, you know, she has to miss, you know, and it's just a shit show, man. At the end of the day, it's a shit show, all right, and this man has failed as a ruler, man. Okay, and he has created an anti-life, okay, society. then everything would destroy itself. Okay? That life would just run out, cease to be. Because Esau, Edom, like he sold the birthright, he was in the moment. And he pushes society where people are just in the moment. No one is thinking about generation to come because he got people in such a rat race they can't. People in such survival mode they can't think about the next generation, man. This man is the complete devil, man. And there's so many layers of his wickedness and how this man run this society, man. Okay, dinks, dual income, no kids. God damn.
They become dinks. Dual income, no kids. The internet celebrates them. Instagram is full of their content. Child-free travel, child-free brunch, child-free disposable income. If you remove the cost of a child, $300,000 from your lifetime balance sheet, suddenly you are rich. You can afford the nice apartment. You can afford the annual trip to Portugal. You can afford the $8 latte and the $200 yoga pants. This feeds into the doom spending phenomenon we see in millennials and Gen Z. They look at the future and perform the calculation. I cannot afford a house with a yard. I cannot afford a secure retirement. I definitely cannot afford a baby. The future is broken, so I will buy a Gucci bag. I will fly to Bali. I will enjoy the present because the future is not coming for me anyway. It is a retreat into what philosophers call soft nihilism. Enjoy now because later does not exist. The economy restructures to serve them. Look at your city. Look at what is being built. We are building thousands of one-bedroom condos. We are opening expensive restaurants. We are constructing dog parks and yoga studios and boutique fitness centers. We are not building schools. In Ontario, school boards are closing elementary schools because there are not enough children to fill them. We are not building 3-bedroom apartments. Developers build 1-bedrooms because the profit margin is higher and the demand from dinks is guaranteed. We are not building family-sized homes. We are building luxury townhomes that cost $1.2 million. We are not building playgrounds. We are building fitness centers and co-working spaces. The construction industry has responded to the market. The market is childless adults with disposable income, so that is what gets built. We are redesigning our civilization for single adults who consume rather than families who create. The economy has optimized for the present. It has abandoned the future. And in doing so, we are optimizing for extinction. 7. The demographic Ponzi scheme. How Canada cheats the birth rate. So if nobody is having children, how does the economy grow? How do you maintain?
And that's the point. This is what the devil has established, man. And this is all plays into his new world order. Okay? This all plays into his new world order. I think there was a what that movie called What Happened to Tuesday, if I'm remembering it correctly. Okay, to where the last child was born like 20 years ago, and then, to where, people just weren't having children. It wasn't allowed. Okay? And remember, this man has a concept called the post-human society, man. What the hell is this nigga talking about? Okay, a post-human society? What does that mean? Okay? And he doesn't fully know, man. You see, this man just has to be removed from power, man. And that's why, let's get a few precepts, and then I got some pulled up on the chat. Okay? So this man, Esau, Edom, when you go to the book of Matthew, chapter 24, okay, in verse 21, which we always get it. It's the book of Matthew, chapter 24, in verse 21. It says, "For then shall be great tribulation, such was not since the beginning of the world to this time, no, nor ever shall be," man. And the Lord is bringing this tribulation, man. You got this devil, which he's being used as a tool on the left-hand side, all right, of judgment, okay? So this devil, he has it, okay, within his new world order to bring order out of chaos. All right. So he's going to manufacture a lot of crisis. Okay. A lot of civil unrest. Okay. A lot of death. Okay. Then you factor in this war. You see? So there's going to be a major reset in the earth, man. There's going to be a righteous reset. Okay. Because what this devil has established in the earth, this current society, is completely off, man. Okay. He's pushed the masses of people, okay, to to position of death to where people don't, having children is not natural anymore. You know, just a man and a woman might get together, just kicking it, trying to enjoy the moment. Okay, that's off, man. So the Lord, a major reset has to come to the earth, man, and our kingdom is going to be a kingdom of life. Okay, it says, and except those days should be shortened, there should no flesh be saved, and that's literal, man. Okay, this man has nothing but systems of death and depopulation in the earth, man. Okay, he will end his own existence, man, and everyone else's if this man was to stay in power, because this nigga don't got it, man. Okay, this nigga did not have it figured out. Okay, it said, but for the elect's sake, those days shall be shortened, man. This is why we see things are speeding up, man. The Lord is shortening the time. Okay, prophecy is walking this man down. Okay, so you go from there. Let's get this. I want to get this in, because what we have to understand, what we got coming as a part of, the blessings of Yahweh Bashim Al Shah, okay, is what you call an agrarian kingdom. Okay, because even now, because you can't get around what true wealth is, because the people that are billionaires and trillionaires, they own raw resources and land. Okay, these people that are trillionaires, gazillionaires, and etc. These people own the resources and lands. Okay, they give us this money paper, all right, this paper money to trade and do daily business with. Okay, but these people that are truly wealthy, they own resources and land, and they own people. These corporations. Okay, if you work for Amazon, you're a property of Amazon. Okay, you're a property of Walmart. You're a human resource. Okay, so what this devil has done, he has concentrated all the wealth unto himself. Okay, while we play this monopoly game with this currency, with money, our life centered around paper. Okay, but the true elite family, they own people, they own land, they own the actual raw materials and resources. Okay, and this is what we're gonna have, man, in righteousness, man. Okay, so I asked the chat, I said, what is an agrarian society? Does the Bible reference wealth according to an agrarian standard? Full precepts that give evidence. Does the demand to be fruitful and multiply play well into agrarian society? Which we know we had that order from the beginning. Okay, it said, great question. It said they all connect, and yes, they make a lot more sense once you read the Bible through an agrarian lens. Let's take it step by step. What is an agrarian society? An agrarian society is one where agriculture, farming, herding, land stewardship is the primary economic base. Okay? So when you go into agrarian society, it goes back to farming, a culture of farming. Okay? Herding and land stewardship. It said wealth is measured mainly by land, livestock, crops, and house size. And the house size means the people. Okay? Not the square footage, but the people. Okay? Not money or abstract assets, because you got to think about it. If you was rich in livestock, you wouldn't need Esau's paper money. If you was rich in resources, you wouldn't need this devil's paper money. Okay? Everything that we buy with paper money, okay, comes from a natural resource. Groceries from a natural resource. All those are natural resources. Now we know this devil has made a lot of food chemical based, but the concept of the grocery store, that's all natural resources, man. Your grocery store supposed to be on your estate. What you grow, you supposed to be able to go outside and pick a fresh, cause what they call a garden salad. You're supposed to be able to go outside and pick you a fresh garden salad. Okay, your romaine, your arugula, your different lettuces. Okay, the tomatoes out there, olive tree out there, whatever. Okay, you're supposed to be able to go outside with the bowl and pick you a fresh garden salad. Okay, you had animals, you had your milk, your cheese, you had everything. Then you slaughter animals, you got your meat, and plus the animal skin was used for clothing. Okay, the clothing, like women, you got to go do all this shopping. You're supposed to be able to make your own clothing. Supposed to grow your clothing, cotton, linen, silk, all that can be grown. Okay, I'm gonna say the animal hide. You see, in the kingdom, we're going to have this in abundance, and we're not going to have to do the labor, okay, to prepare, these resources for use. That's what the slaves are going to be for. We're going to get into that as well. Okay, the liquor store supposed to be outside. You're supposed to have your own. You can have your own distilleries, breweries, okay, and wineries on your own land. Okay, your own vineyards. Okay, letting wine get old. Because what people want that choice wine, that old wine, the 10-year-old wine, or you know, you see, that's what we're gonna go back to the resources, to the earth itself, man. Everybody's looking for grass fed. That's supposed to be coming. That's not supposed to be a flex getting grass fed. That's supposed to be coming. Okay? Everything on your property gonna be grass fed, free range, and all these. That's how it's supposed to be. Here the devil, he degrades life, but then sells you the natural ways of luxury. Okay, he corrupts food, but then sells you a better, the natural brand of food, which is better than his BS. Okay, as a luxury, man. Okay, but when you go into it, says wealth is measured mainly by land, livestock, crops, and household size, not money or abstract assets. Survival depends on seasons, rain, soil, labor, and family cooperation. It says social stability depends on inheritance, kinship, and generational continuity. In short, labor plus land plus offspring equals security. So children, all right, wasn't a burden. Children was an asset. That was an addition to your house. They added value to your house. They offer security to what? The next generation. Okay, you have a man that was a master carpenter. He had 4 sons. That's 4 more master carpenters for the next generation. You see, this is an ass backward society that this man has established, man. This big rat race that he has everybody on just to make him rich, to keep a few families rich and everyone else destroyed. Okay, it said this is the world of the ancient Near East and the world of the Bible. It said, does the Bible reference wealth according to an agrarian standard? Yes, almost entirely. Biblical wealth is overwhelmingly agrarian, especially in the Old Testament. Core indicators of wealth in Scripture, land ownership. Land is the foundational asset. Okay, Genesis 13:2. Abram was very rich in livestock, in silver, and in gold. Livestock is listed before precious metals. Okay, Joshua 21, chapter 21 through chapter 24. Israel's inheritance is land, not cash. Okay, Proverbs chapter 3, verses 9 and 10. Honor the Lord with your wealth. All right, then your barns will be filled with plenty. No land equals no security. This is why exile is catastrophic, man. Okay, and that land that was promised, all right, to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, that was the wealthiest land on the earth. Okay, and it was strategically placed, all right, at the center of the earth, man. Okay, perfect for ruling the world from. Okay, and controlling the flow of resources and wealth, true wealth. Okay, it says livestock and herd. It said herd size is reoccurring wealth metric. Job 1 and 3. Job's greatness is measured by 7,000 sheep, 3,000 camels, 4,000 yoke of oxen, and 500 donkeys. Genesis 26 and 14. Isaac became wealthy. All right, Isaac becomes wealthy because he had possessions of flocks and herds and many servants. This is a balance sheet. This is a balance sheet thinking, agrarian style, man. Okay, because when you own resources, your resources reproduce themselves. You don't have to budget a child into it because you already have abundance of resources that child is coming into. Then you're teaching that child how to manage and work those resources and multiply those resources. The resources multiply as we multiply. Okay, simple math. Okay, this devil has an overcomplicated, okay, backwards, counterproductive, anti-life system, man. Okay, he's supposed to be around here trying to keep up with inflation and, quantum easing, and I'm gonna put my $800 in this, in this fund. It draw a 8% interest. I'm gonna buy a tenth of a Bitcoin. I'm gonna sit on it, and then in April I'm gonna sell the Bitcoin. It's some bullshit, man. Okay, this ain't living, man. Okay, this is a goddamn circus, man. Counterproductive, man. Ass backwards. What this man has established as a society, man. Okay, this it says agricultural yield. It says productivity equals blessings. We're going to get into that. The blessings in Deuteronomy 28. It says blessings include fruit of the womb, which is children, fruit of the ground, and increase of livestock. Psalms 128:3. Your wife will be like a fruitful vine, your children like olive shoots, man. Big family is supposed to be a blessing, man. A big family in this society is looked down upon. Okay? It's frowned upon to have a big family, man. This wicked ass, backward ass society, man. And that's one of the things I can't wait to get back to. That's the concept of family, the dynamic that the Lord established from the beginning to see it in this totality, man. Us in our perfection in that rulership, man, and having servants to go with it. Okay, to forward their righteous legacy, man. Okay, it says, notice how people, plants, and animals are described using the same fertility language. It says household size and servants. A large household equals wealth and resilience. Genesis 14:14. Abraham had 300 trained men born in his household because he had the substance to sustain that many people. When you have the resources, man, you can sustain a lot of people. When you have land and people are being taught how to work the land, okay, they create self-sufficiency, man. Okay, because 318 people, that's a whole, apartment complex. You see? But in this society, Esau, what he does, let's say, instead of having a unit, people moving in a unit, he has everyone dealing with individual, everyone moving as individual, man. So you might have, let's say you have a man, you say you have a man and a woman. This man works for Walmart. The woman works for Amazon. Okay. The child works for McDonald's. Okay. And they stay in this apartment. You see? So you have this one family, but there's three individuals. Their labor and their energy is going to three different corporations. Nothing is really being poured into the family because the money goes back to these corporations to pay for bills and entertainment and food. Okay. So it's all about, people trading their labor to keep these corporations afloat in this society, man, in this industrial society. Okay. It says servants are not just labor, they are economic strength. It says debt and poverty frame agriculturally. Okay. Now when you go it says Jubilee and land ethics. It said the year of Jubilee is decisive proof the Bible thinks agrarian. Land cannot be permanently sold. Land returned to original families. Economic resets are tied to soul and inheritance, not currency, man. And this made sure there wasn't generational poverty, man. Okay, every so often the economy will reset itself, which will be through land. Because if you had land, you can create wealth, man. Wealth creation was easy when people had wisdom of the land, wisdom of the earth, wisdom of nature, okay, of farming. skills, man. You see, wealth creation was easy. And when I say wealth, that doesn't mean $1 billion, $2 billion, man. I'm talking about having abundance, all right, of resources needed, okay, to live. Okay. It says this would make little sense in a commercial industrial economy. And this is the economy we have, the system we have is an industrial commercial economy, but perfect sense in the agrarian one. And this is what Yahweh Shai is coming to establish, man, that agrarian system, man. Okay. It said it does be fruitful and multiply, fit in agrarian society perfectly. Okay. It is foundational. Children are economic assets. In agrarian life, children provide labor, ensure care in old age, preserve land across generations. Psalms 127, all right, verses 3 through 5. Children are inherited from the Lord. Blessed is a man whose quiver is full of them. This is not metaphorical sentiment, it's economic realism. Okay? So children was meant to be a blessing in every way. Okay, not just in the sense of an emotion, okay, but for forwarding life. Okay, it made economic sense. Big families, all right, made economic sense, man. But it's the complete opposite in this society. Okay, Genesis 1:28. Be fruitful and multiply, fill the earth and subdue it. Subdue doesn't mean exploit, it means to organize, cultivate, and steward. More people equals more capacity to farm more land, build communities, and defend inheritance. Okay? Because there's so much land that's farmable, that's not farmed because people are not being taught to farm. They're being taught to work for a corporation. Okay, to forward these few corporations that run the earth. You see? So you have all this land that's farmable that's not being farmed that could easily self-sustain, okay, families. And that's why you have this uptick in homestead now. Okay, because this commercial industrial system ain't the way, man. It's not natural. Okay. Now at the end of the day, we're in the time now where this devil finna be taken down, man. Okay. But the Lord shows us that, like I say, we're judges. We're learning to be judges. Okay. And you look at this man's kingdom, and we dealing with the wisdom of Yahweh Bashim Al Shai, how he intended it to be, and we can really see how off this kingdom is, man. All right. It says covenant promises with their promise to Israel. Covenant promises are agrarian shape. The Most High promised repeatedly land, descendants, agricultural blessings. Example, I will make you exceeding fruitful and will give you, all right, the land, which he was speaking to Abram, okay, which will later became Abraham, all right, and he was speaking to his lineage. You see, it says big picture synthesis. Yes, the Bible assumes an agrarian worldview. Wealth equals land plus yield plus people. Blessing, fertility of soil, womb, and herd. Justice equal protecting inheritance and preventing permanent land loss. Fruitfulness, obedience aligned with creation order. Okay, so the earth was made for people to be abundant, especially Israelites, man, beginning with Israelites. Okay, but in the kingdom, our servants, they're going to be fruitful and multiply. We're going to need more slaves as we have more offspring. Okay, we're going to need more slaves, man. So everything in the kingdom is going to go back to being fruitful and multiply. And the earth is set up, all right, to sustain people being fruitful and multiplying because resources are fruitful and multiply. Okay, that's why in the blessings, the Lord mentions the resources. Okay, let's go here. All right. And you got this devil, the Mathu was it Methuselah? I'm saying, if I'm saying it right. What's this nigga name? Methuselah? Yeah, Malthusian. Yeah, Malthusian theory. Okay, that the earth is over, populated. Okay. That's wicked, man. Okay. The earth was meant to sustain abundance. Okay, and that's what the earth is going to go back to. All right, under the ruler, on these rightful rulers, man. And that's another thing on the Esau Edom. The earth. We go to Cain, which we know the spirit of Cain is forward on Esau. We understand, Esau is Cain coming back. Okay, Jacob and Esau is Abel and Cain coming back, man. Okay, but when you go here to Deuteronomy, when you go into, the blessings of the covenant, which when we get those new bodies, okay, we're gonna have the blessings, okay, of the covenant, man, because we're gonna be perfected, so we're gonna be able to enjoy the blessings of the covenant. You see, in this imperfection, we had to deal with the curses of the covenant, man. Okay, but through Yahushua, which paid that debt for sin, okay, when he comes back and we're changed, we're going to enjoy, the perks, okay, that comes with the covenant in this new covenant when we're changed, man. Okay, this is Deuteronomy 28:1. It says, if you fully obey the Lord your power and carefully keep all his commandments that I am giving you today, the Lord your power will set you on high above all the nations of the world. You will experience all these blessings if you obey the Lord your power. Your towns and your fields will be blessed. Your children and your crops will be blessed. The offspring of your herd and flocks will be blessed. The fruit baskets and bread boards will be blessed. Wherever you go and whatever you do will be blessed. Okay? So this is all agrarian talk, man. Okay? Going into children, okay? Livestock, vegetation, storehouses, surplus. Okay? Then it goes into what? Militarily. Okay? Which how Shai is coming on the war campaign, man. Okay? When he returns. It said the Lord will conquer your enemies, and he's going to do that through Yahushua. When they attack you, they will attack you from one direction, but they will scatter you in seven, which we know the devil, he's getting ready to make his move. Okay? But the Lord has given us these devils in our hand through Yahushua, man. Okay? Esau is defeated. It said the Lord Yahweh Bashem al-Shah will guarantee a blessing on everything you do and will fill your storehouse with grain. The Lord your power will bless you in the land he has given you. If you obey the commandments of the Lord your power and walk in his ways, the Lord Yahweh Bashem al-Shah will establish you as his holy people as he swore he would do. Then all nations of the world will see that you are a people claimed by the Lord, and they will stand in awe of you, man. And this is what the Lord, when he delivers us, man, the earth is going to see, like, that's those people. All right, the earth. Hey, when we come out those chariots, man, the earth is the people of the earth gonna be in awe. Okay, and then they go into captivity. You see, it said the Lord will give you prosperity in the land he swore to your ancestors to give you blessing. To give you, it said blessings. All right, he said blessing you with many children, numerous livestock, and abundant crops. So you see how they go together: the blessing of children and the blessing of livestock. All right, and abundant crops, man. It all go together. Okay, life, man. We're gonna have a kingdom of life, man. Everything is gonna be in abundance. It said the Lord will send rain at the proper time for his rich treasury in the heavens, from his rich treasury in the heavens, and will bless all the work you do. You will lend to many nations, but you will never need to borrow from them, man. Okay, because guess what? The priests gonna be the bankers of the earth, man. Okay, because right now, the elites, they're the bankers. The people that run the earth, they're the bankers of the earth, man. We're going to be the bankers, okay, in righteousness, man. You see, we're going to control the flow of resources and wealth distribution in the kingdom, man. And it's going to be in righteousness, okay? And it says, if you listen to do these commands as the Lord your power, all right, or the Lord your power that I am giving you today, and if you carefully obey them, the Lord will make you the head and not the tail, and you will always be on top and never on the bottom. Okay, and this is what Yahushua is coming to establish, man. And we're going back to true wealth, man. Okay, and he gonna break this system and this rat race, man. Okay, well, this man has created a childless economy, man. The goddamn devil, man. And we just got so much to look forward to, man. I look forward to the simplicity of the kingdom, man. The simplicity of the kingdom, man. The earth giving forth this strength, man, and just having our own everything, man. Okay, so that's the point. It's much more that I could have went into, but I'll leave it there. That's just something to talk about another day. So Lord will, you brothers, all right, and you sisters edified once again. I'm gonna give all praise and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahweh Shah, Bahashim, Rakakadash, and double honors unto the apostles and the elders of GMS who rule well, teach well, being great examples to his younger brothers, and peace and blessing salutations, hopefully.